No one knows for sure when it began. Some say it was a global network failure. Others believe the planet itself simply gave up. What is known is that the silence didn't come all at once. It crept in gradually like an invisible virus, corroding everything that sustained the modern world. First, there were small signs, networks going offline without explanation, interrupted transmissions, planes no longer landing. Then came chaos, isolated cities, empty markets, unanswered sirens, and then total collapse. The last human remembers those days as if revisiting a confusing dream, where everything seemed too real to be a lie. People still tried to fool themselves. They said it was temporary, that the power would soon return, that the system would rebuild. But the system never did. And with each night that passed without power, the hidden truth became clearer. The world we knew had ended, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Hunger came before fear. Fear came before silence. And when silence finally arrived, it brought a forced, almost ironic peace. It was the sound of the absence of everything, of voices, of machines, of promises. The last human learned to walk slowly, not out of exhaustion, but because there was no longer any reason to rush. Everything that needed to exist had already existed. The streets that once throbbed with life now felt like corridors of memory. At every corner, a petrified memory. A baby stroller forgotten on the sidewalk, a still full cup on a table, a billboard announcing a future that never arrived. He watched these scenes like someone watching the backstage of a play that ended long ago. Everything was in place, but the meaning had vanished. Sometimes he would enter old buildings, climb dusty staircases and open doors, only to find rooms intact, as if the people had evaporated into thin air. Framed photographs, notes stuck to the refrigerator, toys lying on the floor. Each object was an echo of who we were. Things that once held value, now just silent witnesses to a lost era. Scientists, before they disappeared, called this silent extinction a chain reaction, not caused by explosions or wars, but by the sum total of everything we ignore. Soil exhaustion, saturated air, consumerism, emotional detachment. Humanity believed it had control over everything, but it forgot a simple rule. Nothing lasts forever when the planet itself tires. The Earth didn't revolt. It just turned off the lights. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the story of extinction isn't just about the disappearance of people, it's about the transformation of the very idea of humanity. The last human alone began to realize that the traces left behind counted more than any monument. He found diaries, voice messages, recordings, small confessions of the end, in all of them the same pattern: regret. Regret for small, everyday decisions that, taken together, shaped the fate of the entire species. What's most striking is not the physical disappearance, but the collapse of the mentality. People stopped believing in each other long before they disappeared. Human connections, weakened by haste and distraction, were the first to die. Extinction didn't begin in the body, it began in the soul. And what the last human bears above all is the weight of this discovery. He now understands that the true apocalypse was not the end of civilization, but the point at which humanity lost its sense of community. When everyone began to live in their own bubble, connected to everything and, at the same time, isolated from everyone else. This was the spark that ignited the beginning of the end. There was no single catastrophic event. There was a sequence of choices, silent, individual, but devastating overall. As he walks down a road covered in leaves and rust, he reflects on the impact of these decisions. With every step, he thinks about how everything could have been different. If only we had listened. If only we had stopped to breathe. If only we had realized that the technology we built to bring us closer was the same technology that tore us apart. The Earth didn't scream. It just waited until no one else had a voice to respond. The cities are now empty temples of a faith that has ended. The wind blows through avenues and tunnels, whistling between buildings as if telling ancient stories. Sometimes he swears he hears voices in the distance, laughter, singing, the sound of children running. But when he turns around, there's nothing. Only the echo of his own memory trying to fill the void. There's a strange beauty to this scene. Nature slowly begins to reclaim what was once its own. Trees sprout through the asphalt, rivers cut through once clogged streets. Animals roam freely among the remnants of what we used to call civilization. The planet breathes again, indifferent to our absence. And perhaps, deep down, this is proof that the world never needed us as much as we believed. The last human observes the sky, now clear of smoke, and feels a mixture of relief and guilt. He reflects on the irony of it all. For the planet to return to life, humanity had to disappear. The hidden truth is that we have always been at war with the place that gave us birth, and Earth has merely been waiting for its moment to win. Amidst the silence, he finds a broken mirror. The reflection is distorted, almost unrecognizable, but the gaze is human. And in that gaze are questions that cannot be answered. Who were we? What did we leave behind? What truly matters when everything falls apart? He finds no answers. Perhaps because the answers were never outside, but inside. Every ruin is a reminder, every stone, a record of the collective journey that led to its end. And even in the face of all this, there's something inside him that insists on continuing. A spark of curiosity, perhaps hope. Because despite being alone, he senses this is not the definitive end. It's just the interval between what we were and what we could have been. The wind blows again, carrying with it the scent of rain and the distant sound of thunder. He closes his eyes and for a moment thinks he hears the world breathing again. There's something in the air, something that seems to promise revelations. And somehow, he knows he hasn't seen everything yet. Comment here. That makes sense to me. The last human stands before the sea. The salty wind touches his face like an ancient memory, a gesture of the world that still insists on being beautiful, even without witnesses. The sunset remains the same, golden, calm, indifferent. The sea continues to breathe, with waves that come and go as if nothing had changed. It's almost ironic. Nature doesn't miss humanity. The planet continues its cycle, immutable, while the last human being watches the horizon, trying to understand at what point civilization lost its right to exist. He thinks, if I disappear now, who will remember we were ever here? The answer doesn't come in words. It comes in silence. That same dense silence, full of meaning, that seems to echo within his chest. Silence is the new sound of the world, and in a way, it's the voice of the earth saying, now it's my turn. The man observes the ruins from a distance. The cities are still there, but they seem like models of a forgotten past. Buildings stand like purposeless monuments, and rusted signs announce destinies that no longer exist. He imagines how many lives passed through there, how many dreams were built and destroyed in these very places. Now everything is dust, wind, and memory. There's something almost sacred about being alone in the world. It's not loneliness, it's something else. A kind of hidden truth that only reveals itself when there's no one else to distract him. He realizes that for the first time, the planet breathes unhurriedly. The air is clear, the sky is deep, and time seems to expand. Everything urgent has vanished. Everything important has fallen silent. As he gazes out to sea, he senses a silent transformation taking place. The earth is rebuilding itself, reclaiming the space that was once its own. Plants grow among the rubble, animals return to abandoned cities, and rivers flow once again where concrete once stood. Nature continues its journey, indifferent to the disappearance of those who once believed themselves in control. And perhaps this is the most painful lesson. The world did not need humanity to continue existing. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because what lies before him is not just the end. It is a reflection of our own mindset. Civilization didn't die in a single day. It faded away little by little, each time we chose ego over empathy, progress over balance, noise over listening. We die every time we confuse advancement with destruction and freedom with consumption. This is how humankind created its own absence. The last human understands that collapse was never just material. It was moral, emotional, and spiritual. We lost the meaning of the journey when we forgot why we were here. We wanted to dominate the world, but we never learned to coexist with it. We created walls, systems, and beliefs to protect ourselves from what we called wild. But the wild was the purest thing. The wild was the planet itself trying to talk. He feels that all that remains now is the impact of decisions humanity made without considering the consequences. Decades of exploitation, waste, and denial have left deep scars, but they have also revealed a stark truth. The planet has always had a limit, and we have surpassed it. The Earth didn't punish us. It simply defended itself. With each step he takes on the cold sand, memories wash over him like waves. He remembers voices, laughter, sounds that seemed eternal. He remembers promises of the future, slogans about hope, politicians talking about progress. All of this now sounds like a distant echo, an ancient noise that has lost its meaning. He realizes that perhaps the true miracle of humanity was to exist for so long, and the true mistake to believe it would last forever. As the sun sinks below the horizon, a thin red line cuts across the sky. It's almost painfully beautiful, as if the planet is saying goodbye to itself. He closes his eyes and feels the wind. For the first time, he feels that silence is not the enemy. It is the purest thing left. And in that silence, he hears something different. His own heart. Humanity's last beat is also the planet's first breath of peace. But there's something strange. Even in the face of this end, a small flame insists on remaining lit within him. It's not hope in the ordinary sense, but a kind of ancestral curiosity. A desire to understand what comes next. Is the disappearance of humanity truly the end? Or just the beginning of another form of existence? He wonders if Earth will miss human consciousness. Not machines, not cities, but the ability to feel. Perhaps the planet will also learn something from our absence. Perhaps it will realize that even mistakes are part of evolution. Because deep down, everything that has happened is part of a larger journey, a dance between creation and destruction that has always existed. The transformation he observes isn't just external, it's internal too. Something inside him changes as he walks. Fear gives way to acceptance. Guilt turns to understanding. He understands that the end isn't a punishment, it's a liberation. And that, at some point in time, humanity will exist again. Maybe different, maybe better, but it will exist. The sea continues to advance and retreat, indifferent to the human drama. The sound of the waves is the same sound that existed before any civilization. The planet feels neither anger nor resentment. It simply moves on. And the last human understands that the true mistake was to think the world belonged to us. We are the ones who have always belonged to it. There's a serenity in realizing this, a sense that even after so much chaos, there's still beauty, there's still rhythm, there's still truth. The sunset remains a living painting, and the wind still knows how to tell stories. All that's gone is the noise. The essential remains here, in every breath, in every glimmer of light on the sea. He sits on the sand and watches the horizon, as if searching for an answer in the movement of the waves. He knows there's no one else, but for some reason he feels he's not completely alone. Perhaps the entire universe is watching with him, curious, attentive, silent. Perhaps the planet itself, now at peace, still holds the memory of what we once were. And if the Earth dreams, perhaps, in its dreams, the echo of humanity still exists. Not as noise, but as memory. The sound of a species that, for a brief moment, was capable of thinking, loving, creating, and destroying. And somehow, this too is part of the beauty of existence. The last human takes a deep breath and looks up. The sea remains there, infinite, pulsing, as if nothing had happened. He senses there is something more, something that still needs to be seen, understood, revealed. The end is never the end, only the beginning of a new transformation. Write it down. I'm on that journey too. And so we reach the end of this journey through the silence that remained when humanity disappeared. If you've followed this far, you've realized how every detail, every memory, and every reflection has the power to transform the way we see the world and our own existence. That's why, if this content resonated with you, it's worth subscribing to the channel. Here we'll continue exploring stories that provoke, question, and reveal hidden truths, always with a narrative that draws you into the scene. And since you made it to the end, leave a comment below. I'm with you until the end. I want to see who truly felt this journey, who was able to walk side by side with the last human among what remains of the world. Each comment is a way to share the experience, and it also helps to strengthen this connection we've built together. If you felt the weight, beauty, and reflection of this story during the video, please leave a like naturally. It's not just a click. It's a sign that the message got through, that the silence and the narrative resonated, that everything we saw together had a real impact. And look, there's a video right here that complements this topic. Click and follow me there. The journey isn't over yet, and there's so much more to discover about what remains when everything seems to have disappeared. Just keep walking, step by step, through these stories that blend silence, memory, and transformation.